Welcome to FFT Open Primetime, your Week 14 report. It is officially time for the playoffs. I'm going to break all those downs for you, how the playoffs are working in this league. But first, let's honor those teams that knocked Week 14 out of the park. And Cole absolutely knocked it out from the Peyton Division, 218.36, one of our highest scores of the year. I'll show you that team in just a minute. Cole not going to make the playoffs, but will go out on a high note with one of the better scores of the year to date. Peter in the Sanders division at 198.62 points came in second. Scott in the Merino division at 179.64. This is the second time in the last 3 weeks he has finished top three. He had a second place finish in week 12. Scott cruising into the playoffs on a high note. Cody also making a move in the playoffs on a high note. 178.64 out of the Hallis division. Again, the second time he has been in the top five in the last 3 weeks. In week 12, he was also fourth place. And then finally, Kevin from the Favre division rounds out your top five. Looking at the best team, Cole in the Peyton division racked up 218.36 points. If you look at this team, obviously as his first round pick and Christian McCaffrey at 29.3, not a lot else going on from his draft. This is how you execute a successful week, but maybe not a successful season. These are a bunch of guys who went off for him this week. Rashad Waite, Jarrett McKinnon, multiple touchdowns. Jerry Judy, multiple touchdowns. Juju, a great week. Evan Ingram, multiple touchdowns. This is when your whole lineup hits, right? These are the dream weeks. You hope you have these in the playoffs. Unfortunately for Cole, not going to make the playoffs, but well played in this final week of your season. Cole, top five this season. We have a change at the top. Allen and Carl. Carl was ahead by 2 points coming into the week. Allen outscored him this week, moves into the top spot, dropping Carl down to second place. Both head to the playoffs with long winning streaks, as does Brian Weber in the Elway division. All three of them 10-game or more winning streaks heading into the playoffs on the right foot. Jason maintains his fourth place position at 12-1-1 from last week, and John maintains his fifth place position from last week, the highest scoring of the 12-2 teams. Now, let's talk about playoffs. Here we go. Divisional playoffs. Every single division, all 24 divisions, will have their own 6-team playoffs. That's right. 6 teams will qualify out of the 14 teams to be in the playoff. Now, if you want to find that information, very easy to find. You go to the league homepage, you will go under the standings bracket, and you find the one called Playoff Race. This actually updates all season long, kind of shows you where you stand. You'll see a few different things on this page. Number one, you will see standings. I pulled my own Merino division so you could get an idea for what this looks like. As you can see, we have the 6 teams that have qualified by their current seed. In our specific division, Allentown Adams Family, Phil, I shouldn't say one. He is leading our division at this point. The tiebreakers points scored. So he is the number 1 seed over Scott, Mr. Top 3 himself. Scott is the 2 seed. Both teams will receive a bye week this week, but in the event that we need to break a tie, you'll notice that in a minute. We do always default to points scored in this league. 3, 4, 5, 6 are seeded as such, and then here's your teams that are out below it. Now, you will also see a playoff bracket on those pages. As you can see, Phil gets the number 1 seed. He is atop this bracket. Scott, the number 2 seed, he is down there with a bye week. Both teams have bye weeks. And then my team, number 5, too legit to quit. Maybe my team needs to play a little better than the Dolphins have the last 2 weeks. But you can see we'll go out from there. But we will also have an overall playoff champion. There's no great way to do this to run the two things concurrently. Scott Fish, of course, one of the things I modeled this after was the Scott Fish Bowl. He does not have a divisional championship. I put that in year 2 due to popular demand. After season 1, they wanted to see that just in case you were out of the overall playoff, which does get narrowed down pretty quickly. The overall playoff will be totally independent of that. I will score the overall playoff format on a Google Sheet is how we'll keep track of that. But obviously, it'll be on the website as well. So make sure you're setting those lineups if you're still alive. If you were leading your division at the end of week 14, as for instance, Phil was leading the Merino division, you'll be getting a bye week to the week 16 semifinals. There will be 24 of you getting that bye week. Wild card teams, we will have the next 3 best records in each division will advance to a wild card round in week 15. And then we have a points wild card. I'm a big believer in this. Scott does the same thing for the Scott Fish Bowl. The highest scoring team in each division who is not already qualified for the playoffs will receive an invitation to that wild card round as well, which means we'll have the 96 teams in that wild card round. So looking at what we're doing here in my division, Phil will get the bye week to week 16 because him and Scott had the same record, but Phil has scored more points on the season. Scott and Mama's Cooking and Really Rotten will join him as wild card invitations. But look what happened here. My team, just so you know this thing isn't rigged, my team is in fifth, but I'm actually going to edged out of the overall playoffs by my friend Danny. Danny outscored me on the season, and you look at the points scored column. He has 1,813 points to my 1,763. So I am actually, if you look at the overall standings, it's someone else than me is the top two teams left out of the overall playoffs in those overall standings. So you'll know it's not rigged. I'm not playing favorites here. Now that's how this looks. They will move on to their various things. So let's look at that. Here's your divisional champions. These teams are moving on to week 16. I will put this in the email so you have this information. But those teams will get a bye week. You'll have nothing to do this week. And potentially, all of you would have received a bye week as well. So all you will have nothing to do in week 15, moving on to week 16. Now, your wild card teams. I have 3 screens full of wild card teams. The red teams are the records. The purple teams are the points. These are the teams that are getting in right there, and right here. What we will do here is top 16 out of 96. You got to be really good to make the cut. The top 16 are going to advance to week 16. Let's talk about how the mechanics of week 15. This is what the sheet looks like. You will have your seasonal points per game added to your week 15 total to get a total score. The top 16 total scores move on. This is the top 16 right now. Michael Gray is averaged 138.87 points per game this season. He is currently the 16th best of the teams that are in the wild card round. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I will take your week 15 score, add it to that seasonal points per game column. So let's say Juan scores 100. He averaged 152. His score for the week will be 252.6 points. I hope that makes sense. Top 16, moving on. We will do the same thing in week 16. Semifinals. You will get your week 16 score plus your seasonal points per game average to get a score. Scott is doing this in the Scott Fish Bowl. The reason is it allows these good teams to maybe have a slightly off week so that we don't have an entire season full of good work, mess it all up. Juan in the Moss division, your leading point scorer on the season, wasn't even good enough to get a bye, but he's going to be tough to beat. Right behind him, Adam, successful season last year, having another successful season this year. So that's how this is going to work. If you have questions, please email me. I will drop the link to this document right here in my email. It is also on our Google site if you need that information there. Finally, I'd like to end the show by looking at our best ball invitational tournament for St. Jude. Josh led last week, continues to lead this week, has a 14-point lead over John in second place. So I will talk to you next week as we advance just 40 teams to overall playoffs. And of course, we'll have 4 teams in every division move on to the semifinals in the divisions as well. So hope you have a great, successful week. I hope you do well in both this tournament and any other leagues that you are in. Thank you so much for playing. It's been a great season, and I'm so happy for those of you that can move on to the playoffs. We'll talk to you next week.